Let's look at the question that I have planned for today. What is the requirement? Write a report to the CEO of Belivat to respond to her instructions for work on the following areas: product development budgeting, Kaizen costing, interaction of ZBB and Kaizen, inventory management project. 12 plus 9, 21 plus 19 is 40, and then 10 professional skills. Now, Belivat Manufacturing is a world leader in the manufacture of temperature sensors used in many industrial processes. It aims to deliver growing returns to its shareholders in the long term. It operates in an increasingly competitive environment where profit margins are under pressure. In order to address these forces, the board of Belivat has decided that they need to change their strategic approach. They intend to increase revenue and drive down costs by becoming more innovative in the two key aspects of the business: the development of new products and the production process. Currently, the business uses standard costing and incremental budgets in order to control cost. The same methods of production and accounting have been used for many years at Belivat. The board recognizes the need for a cultural change to fit new strategic approach. The board also believes that they have an excellent workforce which is underutilized. It has been decided that this can be capitalized upon by two changes: one to product development and the other to general production process. Product development should be addressed by a more project based approach where products are developed by teams of workers. In addition, the organization of production of all products will also now be handled by teams whose aim is to reduce cost as far as possible while manufacturing competitive levels of quality. The board has begun discussing these changes, and the CEO has asked you, as a performance management expert, for your assistance on a number of proposals relating to the changes to costing and budgeting at Belivat. There is also a plan to improve the operation of the warehouse by introducing new technology in inventory management. It is proposed that a new budgeting method be used for new product development, and it has been suggested that zero based budgeting may be a more useful approach. The CEO wants a critical comparison of ZBB and the existing method of budgeting. This should include a description of the ZBB approach and how this fits with Belivat's plans and aims. What is the company doing currently? They want the comparison between what is happening now and the proposed one, correct? So, what is happening right now? The company is using standard costing and incremental budgets in order to control the cost. The same methods of production and accounting have been used for many years at Belivat. The board recognizes the need for a cultural change to fit the new strategic approach. The board also believes that they have an excellent workforce, which ये बात का बात है. What is the current approach? The current approach is incremental budgeting. What the company wants to introduce is zero-based budgeting. Now, what is the expectation? Critical comparison of ZBB and the existing method of budgeting. So ideally, you are supposed to compare incremental budgeting and zero-based budgeting and then give an analysis, and ultimately how ZBB approach fits with Belivat's plans and aims. Okay. So let's begin. First of all, can you tell me what exactly is incremental budgeting and what is zero-based budgeting?
So, incremental budgeting is basically the starting point is a previous year's figures, and it takes into account the inflation and other economic factors and prepares the budget for the current year. Whereas in zero-based budgeting, you start from scratch, where the budget decided for each activity needs to be justified.
Okay. So zero-based budgeting is like going to the drawing board all over again and starting from the scratch. Incremental budgeting is whatever figures you have for the last quarter, basically, doing certain, plus and minus with that, and using the last quarter or the last week or the last month's numbers and building on those numbers for the future. That is incremental budgeting. Now, the question is, which method would suit Belivat company more? Or why do you think zero-based budgeting is cheaper for this company? Now, first of all, let's look at the data and see, are they, going back to their old products, or are they planning to start a line of new products? What is the situation as we speak? Are they planning to start something new?
Yes, sir. They are planning to develop new products and production process.
Okay. So when you are planning to start something new, the incremental approach will not work, because incremental approach is based on the older budgets and the older calculations. There will be plus and minus that you will do in the older calculations to come to the new numbers. But if you are starting off something new, if you are starting off new products, or if you are starting off with a new production process, then don't you think zero-based budgeting makes more sense? Because zero-based budgeting ideally will go to ground zero. It will not make any assumptions. It will make decision packages based on, based on these specific products, and then it will go ahead with the actual development of that particular area. है ना? Then it will build budgets as if everything is new. So I guess for a company which is, planning to get into development of new products and processes, this makes sense. What do you think? In the current circumstances, zero-based budgeting in many ways will help. See, you don't need the budget of the older products, because these are new products. So incremental budgeting ka isme there is no significant role. Also, the company is planning, it's going more innovative, it's going more flexible. है ना? So that means a concept like zero-based budgeting might be more applicable or might be more relevant in this scenario. Now, while the basic answer remains, of course, when you build that answer, you will need the right set of points to build that. Okay, so what I am doing, as I did in previous classes, is I'm giving you all those points that make up the skeleton of your answer. पूरा आपको एक brief मिलेगा कि what all points have to be included. All you have to do is you have to develop this into sentences. ठीक है. But before we do that, I want to show you something on screen which I believe will come in very handy. ठीक है. These are professional skills of APM. It's not that they are much मतलब कुछ ज्यादा फर्क नहीं है as compared to the professional skills that you did in other papers, but I would just want you to go through the video with me once and see what they are trying to say. It will help to improve your understanding. ठीक है. Let me share my screen.
Accountants need to be able to consider a wide range of issues, from operational right through to strategic matters. They are a strategic partner within an organization, offering advice, recommendations, as well as developing and implementing frameworks and policies and adding value. A fundamental skill within this role is the ability to communicate key issues in a clear and concise manner. For management accountants, communication in the workplace is about being able to engage with various stakeholders. This could include senior management, someone who works for you, a client, a supplier, or even a close teammate. Communication will be examined in Section A of the APM exam, where you will be asked to provide a report to the senior management of an organization, typically the board of directors or the CEO, to address a number of issues. Your report format will need to include all of the necessary structural elements, such as report headings, introduction, and headings to break up the subject matter. It should also be written in a tone and language appropriate to your audience. In APM, you should quickly establish a good understanding of the issues that your audience regards as important, and provide a response which is clear and tailored to their requirements. For example, you may be told that the board doesn't understand Kaizen costing and so will require an explanation, which means you will need to explain the technique to them in the report. Conversely, you may be told that the board know the principles of Kaizen costing, but want to understand the implications of introducing it for the organization. In this instance, your response should focus on the implications and not on giving a detailed description of something they already know about. It is vital that you don't just state everything you know on a particular topic. Instead, ensure that you are responding to the specifics of what has been requested, and do so in a way that is logical, structured, and relevant to the question scenario. If calculations are required, they should be performed in a spreadsheet tool rather than simply typing in figures prepared on your calculator, and your report should refer to them. Technical marks often can't be awarded when calculations are just typed in and no workings can be seen, as there's no way to determine how the calculation has been arrived at. As a final point, if the user of the report gives you a specific set of instructions, for example, asks for a set number of points or indeed not to cover a particular aspect, then pay attention. A professional response communicates only what has been asked for. Anything else may just confuse the user and is not considered effective communication. Watch the rest of the videos in this series and use the ACCA practice platform.
Watch skepticism also. You can see my screen, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Management accounting is looking for reasons beyond what is immediately obvious to explain, support, or counter management views and opinions on performance management techniques, models, methods, and systems. In the APM exam, directors and managers may make assertions with regard to proposals for the organisation, which you should not take at face value. Skepticism requires you to either look for corroborating evidence in the question scenario to support their views, or conversely, identify information which is missing in order to challenge the position stated. If data is missing or is needed to complete any evaluation, you need to comment on this too, showing that you are well aware that decisions cannot be taken or conclusions challenged without the missing elements. When challenging assertions, skepticism can also be demonstrated by probing further into the motives for those assertions being held. For instance, why might the manager of a division want to change the method of transfer pricing for a product they are buying from another division? This may be to do with the fact that the manager believes they are disadvantaged by the existing transfer pricing policy. If there is numerical data provided, this belief could be assessed by calculating their performance based on a proposed new transfer price and drawing a comparison. However, the perspectives of the buying division and the organisation as a whole cannot be ignored and should be considered. Whether supporting or rejecting management views, you should always provide a justification for your opinion. When asked about techniques, methods, models, or systems, you may be required to evaluate if they will perform the functions suggested by the management in the question scenario. For example, the organisation may want to change the way it sets the budgets for its divisions from incremental to activity-based budgeting, and you are expected to evaluate that change. Showing skepticism means that you don't just accept that proposal, but work out how it will impact the division. You should examine the extent to which it can be applied, explore where it might bring advantages or present problems, and conclude whether it is even useful at all. Skepticism means looking at matters with a critical eye, challenging items which may not be correct or do not seem to be appropriate. However, take care not to question everything in the exam just because this professional skill is being examined. Challenge where you see comments or details in the question scenario which do not seem logical or that are implausible given other information or your general business knowledge. Also, challenge anything that appears to go against professional behaviour or ethics or looks to be illegal or against the public interest. Remember, when you do offer a challenge, you should do so in a professional manner. Watch the rest of the videos in this series and use the ACCA practice platform to develop your answers to display good professional skills. Good luck with your exams.
Okay, so what do we know about communication skill? The first thing we know is that it will be tested only in section A, not in section B. Getting the format is the first step. Of course, giving headings, subheadings, making them bold, presenting ideas in a logical manner, then ensuring that if there are calculations, they are shown separately in the spreadsheet part, not along with the main part of the report, giving reference to the spreadsheet by saying, this calculation is there in Appendix 1. All of these things will go a long way in helping you gain those communication marks. Skepticism is basically the skill where you are expected to question the data points that are thrown in front of you. So instead of simply accepting the data as it is, instead of simply going ahead with whatever is given to you, your ability to question the validity and the correctness of that data, that is something that they are looking for. So when you are framing your answers in a certain manner, uh, it's critical that you know a the format, b the sequencing, how to build it logically, how to ensure that you are respecting the requirements in the question. If they have said, as as the lady in the video mentioned, if the question says do not refer to this, or if the question says specifically focus on this, or if the question says that mention 5 points in favor, then you have to ensure that you mention only those number of points and you don't exceed. So adhering to that will help you get the 4 marks for professional skills, and of course the ability to question the validity of the data fetches you another set of marks. Now, when it comes to our answer, we were looking at zero-based budgeting. I took a bit of a detour from that to emphasize on the professional skill part. See, you should explain what zero-based budgeting is. What they have asked you, keep the expectation of the question in constant view. Huh? उसके लिए what I would prefer doing is I would prefer highlighting critical comparison of ZBB with existing method. ठीक है? This is the first point. And what they want is how this fits in with Belivat's plans and aims. So for that, you will need to know what are Belivat's plans and aims to be able to answer this part correctly. If needed, maybe make two subdivisions of the answer. The first part of the answer could focus on critical comparison of ZBB and existing method, which is the incremental method. Avoid making two columns and answering, the way you used to do that in school, and the differentiate between questions. Don't do that. That will not earn you credit. To get adequate credit, you should split the answer in in paragraph form, one below the other, and then talk about how, because it is launching new products and it is going for new processes, this approach makes more sense. Okay. Now have a look at the points. Talk about what ZBB does. Uh, and how ZBB functions particular in a particular scenario. Talk about incremental budgeting. You will have to mention that ZBB and incremental budgeting cannot coexist. You can either have ZBB approach or you can have the incremental budgeting approach. Conducting cost benefit analysis in case of zero based budgeting, then creating packages, ranking those packages, and allocating those to the highest value ones. How it differs from incremental budgeting uses last year's numbers. ZBB starts from zero and then tries to justify everything. Incremental is cheaper, simpler, less time consuming. ZBB requires staff retraining and more effort. Okay, so one by one, you will mention what is incremental, what is ZBB. You are not supposed to criticize incremental. Okay, you are not supposed to point out flaws. You just have to say what is incremental, say what is ZBB, and then you should go in further detail. Incremental can entrench outdated practices and doesn't support cost calculation, cost reduction. When you say entrench outdated practices, means even if there are certain calculations, जो पुराने जमाने का है, 10 years or 5 years old calculations, but they are still continuing with that. So the older inefficiencies are reinforced into the system. There isn't any critical thinking that is happening. Zero-based budgeting, on the other hand, encourages questioning, innovation, critical thinking, and it will help Belivat's goal for innovation. Why is ZBB suitable for Belivat? Because new products require critical thinking, creative thinking, and ZBB will help you to achieve that. Incremental won't. These are new products, so incremental budgets are anyway not going to serve as the right base, because it's a new cost sheet only altogether. Then it fits the team based project-based culture, and ZBB is bottom-up. That means it empowers the junior level members also. Incremental is top-down and is less suited to autonomous teams. Here, the culture that the company is trying to promote, zero-based budgeting, is in a way the right fit because it takes everyone's pointers into consideration. Okay. Followed by an understanding of how it aligns with the company's shift towards innovation and flexibility. Okay, so what I have, like I told you, what I have done is I haven't written down the full answer in multiple paragraphs, but all the critical points which are needed to develop that answer, I have put those together in one place. Okay. Anything else that you feel you want to add to this? Urvaksh, you want to add anything to this one?
No, sir, I think it covers all the points.
Okay, okay.
So,
Yes.
so they have said that the employees or workers are underutilized. So because it might be because they're using incremental, so they're using the same procedure again and again. But with the help of ZPB, the workers can be put into in better use so that it will help in improving the performance.
Fair. That could be mentioned as a point. डाल सकते हो आप. You could include, not a problem. Okay. So of course, that is the first part of the question. Second part of the question relates to Exhibit 3. The board has been investigating new methods of production and cost control in order to achieve the cost reductions needed to remain competitive. The board has been considering various Japanese production control techniques and has shown particular interest in the possibility of introducing Kaizen costing to replace the existing standard costing system. As none of the board are experts, the CEO has requested an explanation of the process of Kaizen costing. ठीक है, फोकस किस पे है? Process of Kaizen costing. Kaizen costing होता कैसे है? The implications of the change in the costing method for production management. Talk about implications of change and a recommendation as to whether this change is appropriate for Belivat. ठीक है, you are not supposed to talk so much about Kaizen costing as much, or the importance of Kaizen costing, as much as you are supposed to talk of the process of Kaizen costing. Now, Kaizen costing, so it is, one of those modern Japanese techniques. And what exactly does Kaizen costing do? Kaizen costing is a fairly, it's an approach which basically involves continuous cost reduction. Okay, it is an approach which is a continuous cost reduction approach used after a product has been designed and is in production. So instead of keeping the costs same each year, like you would do in standard costing, Kaizen costing expects small continuous improvements every month or every period. Even if it leads to a reduction of zero point 0.5 rupees per unit, the change or the effort is worth it as per the Kaizen costing techniques. Okay, so the approach here is that it focuses on continuous improvement. It does not go for any major radical changes. Employees and teams, see, they look for small daily improvements in processes. You are not going to aim for, a 50% reduction. You could be okay with a 0.5% reduction in cost, but the effort for cost reduction and improvement has to be on a daily basis, on a regular basis. So cost targets are set a little reduced each month. So if it is 100 rupees in the previous quarter, in this one it will be say 99 or 99.5, something which is a very small number, but at the same time achievable. And ultimately you want to get to your target number. So actual cost should keep getting closer and closer to the lower targets. It works well in, team-based production environments or lean production environments, and it does encourage a culture of, employee involvement. उनको आप daily basis पे, regular basis पे, you are assessing them for their good performance and rewarding ultimately any cost reductions that they have been able to achieve. They have asked you the process of Kaizen costing. Okay, what I described you just now is the meaning of Kaizen costing. Now, how does Kaizen costing apply here? Okay, the first thing is how Kaizen costing or what Kaizen costing does is you have to explain that based on continuous incremental cost reduction from one period to the next. The targets are tightened each quarter. हर quarter थोड़ा 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 करके the targets keep on getting relaxed. Sorry, keep on getting tight. In the sense cost जो target cost 100 था in the previous cycle, now it has been reduced to 99. So now your entire effort is going towards reduction of that cost from 100 to 99. First year's production cost low, reduce it for the next year and keep on setting tighter targets. This is continuous improvement, which means it is an incremental process where the employees work in teams and you have to make changes to your day-to-day activities. It's incremental, it's not radical. Matlab, suddenly overnight change is not going to happen. Okay, now the existing system of standard costing, see, standard costing is used to control rather than reduce cost. Standard costing tells you कि यार ideally cost कितना होना चाहिए, and it could be based on an older standard, and ultimately what you are supposed to do is you are supposed to compare, and it is basically a tool for variance analysis कि blame shift करो. Standard costing variance analysis is a blame putting technique कि यार this is where it went wrong and this person is supposed to pay. On the other hand, Kaizen costing is कि चलो 100 का 99 लेके आना है, so we have to keep on making constant changes, constant improvements. Okay, and so culturally the employees also feel empowered because they are seen now as the solution centers instead of the target of blame games. See, it is fit where the innovative methods are going to be introduced in production. If there are intense pressures on margins of the company, and which is right now being felt by Belivat company, Kaizen costing is something which will eventually help you reach that number where you can keep the costs under control and maintain your margins. So Kaizen costing that way could be a recommended approach for Belivat company. ठीक है. See, but to answer these exhibits, now see the points that we mentioned, this is the culture, this is the approach, so on and so forth. This base data is quite important. ठीक है, ये देखो. The board believes that they have an excellent workforce which is underutilized. It has been decided that this can be capitalized upon, one to product development and other to general production processes. Project development should be addressed by a more project-based approach where products are developed by teams of workers. Team wala activity hai, individual activity nahi hai, right? So all of these points will go some way towards ensuring a certain type of output, and Kaizen costing will come in very, very handy with that. Okay, so have a look now. Simply stating, पहले आप पढ़ लो फिर बताता हूं मैं.
So it's done.
ठीक है. Now, see, simply stating that you know what is Kaizen costing is not going to help you get marks. This fit with Belivat is what is most important. The company is trying to reduce cost. It has a team working environment and it is pushing for innovation. So you will have to mention that. And it fits better than radical budgeting methods. Now that the company is going for new production, new products and new production processes, Kaizen costing will help in cost control eventually. right? And why is this appropriate for Belivat? When you are answering this part, you should relate it with the facts of the case. That, the company is focusing on innovation, that the company has a project-based approach, and it can give small targets to its teams on a regular basis for cost control. Also, see, there are specific parts where they have mentioned it operates in an increasingly competitive environment where profit margins are under pressure. This line is important, na? Profit margins are under pressure. So for a company like Belivat, where profit margins are under pressure, Kaizen costing as a method of constant cost reduction and control, I think fits in very well. है ना? So you have to keep on relating to that, otherwise you will not get marks. Often the distinction between a 49 and a 55 could be your ability to correlate that with the specific situation. ठीक है? Which is why make sure that whenever you are reading this now, see, points like profit margins are under pressure. So, just mention that somewhere so that it doesn't affect the quality of your answer. Uska, use these points to enhance the detailing, and connecting with facts of the case is important. Okay. So these points have to be mentioned when you are talking about Kaizen costing. Now, fourth exhibit is interaction of ZBB and Kaizen. पूछा क्या है? In the discussion of the budgeting and costing changes at a recent board meeting, one director suggested that ZBB should become the method of budgeting for the whole business beyond just product development. Another director expressed concern that Kaizen costing did not fit with ZBB, neither on practical nor cultural terms. The board then dissolved into a confusion of the new costing and budgeting methods. The CEO would like you to provide the board with an evaluation of whether Kaizen costing would fit with ZBB in controlling production cost at Belivat. Now, this is an application based question. You have discussed Kaizen, you have discussed ZBB. Now, can the two work together, or they will end up being, different and discrete from each other? What is your take?
So I don't think so. Kaizen and ZBB can work together because uh, ZBB is directly from scratch where every cost has to be justified, whereas Kaizen it's sort of related to incremental, but it focuses on reducing cost and um, reduce the non-value adding activities.
Okay. Yukta, what is your take on this?
So I feel that they can work together because for Kaizen costing, we have to first identify the cost first. So for that, ZBB will be useful. So after implementing ZBB, we can use Kaizen costing to make the incremental changes.
You are seeing incremental changes as the word, and you are trying to fit it with ZBB. ZBB goes to zero each time. Don't you think if your changes are incremental, if you are trying to move from 100 to 99 to 98.5, don't you think it's taking the number from the previous budget or from the previous month and then introducing a change with respect to the old number?
Yeah, right.
So that
So,
way, ideally, it fits best with incremental budgeting, right? Not so much with zero-based budgeting. Zero. So first of all, you will have to explain in this question what is zero-based budgeting, what is Kaizen costing. Extremely two lines, may not more, because you have already done that in part 1 and 2. Quickly explain zero-based, quickly explain Kaizen, and now you will have to explain that Kaizen costing has more similarities with incremental budgeting, and those two would fit better together. Kaizen is different because it demands constant reduction on these targets rather than inflationary increases. See, incremental budgets में usually increase होता है ना? Cost as compared to the last quarter would be more in this one. But Kaizen is saying instead of doing a plus, Kaizen is saying do a minus, do a small subtraction. So ZBB and Kaizen costing together is not the best approach. So Urvaksh, your point is fair. And Yukta, you were on the right track, but I think you got carried away with the fact कि उन्होंने बोला है तो correlation होगा, है ना? Usually what we expect is we expect कि यार question में whatever point they have given, we should negate that point. So you must have thought कि they are saying it doesn't work together. They want us to prove that it works together. But when you are answering, you yourself use the word incremental, and that goes us to show that Kaizen costing. See, what it does is last month, as we discussed twice or thrice, it does a -2, -1, whatever it is to plan the cost for the next month. So it is more aligned culturally with incremental budgeting as a concept, less with zero-based budgeting. ठीक है? Have a look. ZBB is like a radical change. मतलब पूरा go down to zero and then again come up, right? It's complete shock to the system. Incremental Kaizen costing is छोटा छोटा changes happening over a period of time. ठीक है? Okay? चलो.
Yes.
Interaction of ZBB and Kaizen तो हो गया अपना. अब last one is inventory management project, which is for 13 marks. Biggest contribution hai. Belivat has large warehouses containing a large inventory of many different types of sensors so that they can offer quick solutions to customer orders. However, as the business has grown, the scale of the warehouse operation has outgrown its ability to efficiently pick up products for orders and identify obsolete items. The CEO believes that by tagging all items with radio frequency identification devices, picking would be made more efficient, inventory controls would be simpler, and obsolescence reduced. She is aware that this has cost implications beyond merely buying and placing tags on each item in inventory, and she wants your advice on the costs and benefits of introducing such a new system. As part of this advice, she has asked that you quantify your conclusions where possible using the illustrative data for one warehouse. ठीक है. Business has grown. The scale of warehouse operations has outgrown its ability to efficiently pick up orders. She believes that tagging all items using those RFID devices, you have those in Zara Vara ke stores. There's this thing attached to the shirt, and if you try to leave the premises, it starts, it starts making a noise, and that is used for, billing and all of that. She is aware that this has cost implications beyond merely buying and placing tags on each item in inventory, and she wants your advice on the cost and benefit of introducing such a system. As part of this advice, she has asked that you quantify your conclusions where possible using the illustrative data for one warehouse in Appendix 1. ठीक है. The aim of this project is to reduce cost and improve efficiency in the warehouse. The system will apply to finished orders only and not components purchased. The following details are given. Average wage in the warehouse per annum 25,000. Average cost of each tag 0.75. New software needed to collate data from tags 60,000. RFID sensors 50,000. Ongoing annual service cost for new system 15,000. Updating current inventory management software to make it compatible with the collated RFID data 35. Other hardware required for the warehouse 25. It is expected that 1,20,000 fitted sensors will come into the warehouse in the year. It is expected that number of items will be picked in the year as there is no inventory building planned in the period. It is expected that the new system will last for 8 years. Currently, there is an average loss each year due to obsolete inventory write-downs of 1,20,000. It is expected that obsolescence will fall by 65% with the new system. It is expected that picking efficiency will improve, saving 35% of staff time. There are currently 7 staff involved in picking orders. So ideally, you have to do a comparison between, you have to do a cost benefit analysis, correct? So let's talk about the cost here, all the costs. ठीक है? And let's talk about the savings also. दोनों अपने को compare करना है. First of all, how many average wage in the new warehouses in the warehouse per annum is 25,000, and you are paying this right now. There are 7 staff currently involved in picking orders and they are getting wages of 25,000. ठीक है, इसको ना 1 मिनट के लिए बाजू में रखो. Don't do anything about this. You are already incurring this cost. People who are already in the warehouse, 7 people, they are getting 25,000 per annum. ठीक है. Now, if you observe, there are 7 workers and this improved picking, it will bring in efficiency, saving 35% of staff time. So saving in wage cost will be 25,000 into 7 into 35%. Okay. उसके बाद let's see, average cost of each tag is 0.75 tag cost. It is expected that 1,20,000 sensors will be fitted. 0.75. How much are you saying this will be? 1,20,000 into 0.75. 90,000. ठीक है. RFID sensors for all the warehouse. New software needed to collate data from tags. है ना? Is there like any useful life given for this? कि पूरा का पूरा cost consider करना है.
The useful life is given, so we'll do the depreciation.
How much is the useful life?
8 years.
New system will last for 8 years. Okay. RFID sensor 50,000. Is it also going to be subjected to depreciation?
Yes.
Okay. Then ongoing annual service cost for new system, ये पूरा आएगा.
Yes, sir.
Updating current inventory management software to make it compatible with collated RFID data 35. This is also a part of the new system, so it will have a cost of 35,000 divided by 8 apportioned. ठीक है. New software 60,000 by 8. ठीक है. Then RFID sensors also 50,000 by 8. Then annual service cost for new system 15. Then updated software. कितना होगा?
35,000 divided by
35,000 by 8. And hardware. This is 25,000 by 8. ठीक है. Saving in wage cost आ गया. And it will reduce obsolescence by, thank you. It will reduce obsolescence by 65% with the new system. ठीक है. So what should I say? Reduced obsolescence. 1,20,000 is the current write down that is happening. Because of that, it is getting reduced by 65,000. 78. ठीक है. So टोटल बेनिफिट अगर आप देखेंगे तो बेनिफिट इज गोइंग टू बी 139,250। टोटल कॉस्ट अगर आप देखेंगे तो कॉस्ट इज गोइंग टू बी 126,250। आई थिंक you are in luck. Oh, sorry. Introduction of the new system is leading to a saving of 13,000, net benefit of 13,000. So should you introduce the new system? Naturally, yes, you must. And in this task, you have to, so now this calculation will be shown in the spreadsheet. Okay. This calculation will be shown in the spreadsheet with an appropriate referencing done. ठीक है. So this is how you are supposed to approach. Now यार think about it. ये तो पीएम लेवल का भी नहीं है ना, ये तो नॉलेज लेवल का एनालिसिस है, राइट? इट्स नॉट अ डीप एनालिसिस, बट ऑफ कोर्स कनेक्टिंग दैट, गिविंग अप्रोप्रिएट पॉइंटर्स एंड हेडिंग्स एंड प्रेजेंटिंग दैट अप्रोप्रिएटली इन द रिपोर्ट फॉर्मेट, वो आपको नेचुरली उसके मार्क्स आपको मिलेंगे, है ना? सो जस्ट मेक श्योर दैट you explain it properly. And एक बार ना, let's go to the requirement once. Have we missed out on anything in the requirement? See, cost benefit calculation करके might not be enough. She has asked you to quantify your conclusions where possible using the data. ठीक है? She wants your advice on the cost and benefit of introducing such a new system. So whenever you do the calculation, the main part of the answer will have to be followed with a description of the cost and benefit, and you will get your 13 marks allocated for this. Simple. I mean, I don't see this as a challenge in any way. मुझे तो काफी straightforward लगा.
So,
And I believe that makes our journey simpler. APM calculations are never ever going to be difficult. They are always going to be pretty straightforward. So, मतलब gather your wits around it and don't worry too much. Just focus on, your basic common sense, and I think you should be sorted. ठीक है? हाँ.
स्टडी टेक्स्ट में ना रिग्रेशन और लर्निंग कर्व भी दिया है, तो वो ऐसा कुछ एग्जाम में आ सकता है?
रिग्रेशन और लर्निंग कर्व वही पीएम वाला ही है, और वी कैन डू अ शॉर्ट सेशन टू कवर दैट. इट विल हार्डली टेक 30 minutes. कर सकते हैं, कर लेंगे, नो प्रॉब्लम.
Okay.
ठीक है. बट अभी लेट्स डू वन मोर सेक्शन, ए क्वेश्चन. ठीक है. There's a question called FIAG, FIAG. It's a little longer than this one. ठीक है. It's 12:20. I'll give you 10 to 12 minutes to read the question and then we'll do it together. ठीक है. Please start.